So we have the pleasure of having Robert and Jessica Lopez with us today.
Absolutely.
Man, they are such a sweet addition to our campus here at Sandals Church Banning. Robert has been with us for a while editing our videos.
Yep.
So now everything that we do for our podcast, he's after this splicing 3 cameras together and putting in the audio and adjusting coloring and all that kind of stuff. And so he's a huge asset to us. It's just a huge blessing.
He's like just as much a part of this as we are.
Yep.
So he's on the back end. He was on the recording with Mike Fleece, right? Or Sean Fleece. Sorry.
Yep.
Sean Fleece. But you filled in for me that day because I wasn't able to be here. So I appreciate that too.
And there's a whole backstory to how we got connected with Robert. So we'll talk about that because that's a fascinating story.
Fascinating.
And then Jessica is helping out now with our accounting bookkeeping here at our campus with our campus budget. She's working with Tracy, my wife, and so she's getting
Hopefully
into that.
my brain is going to be able to latch on.
It will.
Yeah,
it's complicated. There's a lot to it.
A little bit.
Right? So we're excited that you're delving into that. You're willing to do that. So I want to know, let's start kind of at the brass tacks basics. You guys have been married for how many years?
25.
5
Boom.
years.
25 years, and you have how many kids?
2 kids. 2 boys.
2 boys. And
26 and 20 will be 29.
26 and 29. So tell me how you guys met and a little bit of just about your backstory there.
Well, we met at the Cinedome movie theaters in Orange County.
Nice.
How old are you?
15.
And
Wow.
I was 16.
Dang.
That's a long time ago.
The movie was so horrible. There was nobody in the theater except his group of friends and me and my friend.
Literally, nobody. It was just us in one row.
So we were peeking over and
Yeah.
looking at each other and smiling at each other and giggling and talking. And then one of his friends was brave enough to approach us like in the arcade while we were waiting for our parents to come pick us up.
I was not brave enough. I got the numbers secondhand.
There you go.
And then,
Got it.
yeah. So my mom had instructed me, do not give your phone number to any boys.
And
Disobedient.
Wow. So
And we were just talking about that this morning with my mom. She said, oh, he's such a gem. And I said, aren't you glad I'm disobedient?
So she embraced him, your mom.
Not at first.
Not at first. But afterwards, she has embraced him.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So he's well
She'd
loved.
probably trade me in for him.
I am an acquired taste.
Yeah. It took her some time,
Yeah, a little bit.
a few years.
Yeah.
He takes good care of me, so that's worth a lot.
Okay, so I want to get into this. You were raised in a Christian home,
Yes,
but you dated somebody who wasn't, right?
because I was 15.
And so once you guys decided to get married, you were married to an unbeliever.
Mm-hmm.
But you prayed for Robert to come to a saving knowledge of Jesus.
Yes.
Okay, so
The actual good adult decent prayers, I guess praying started maybe earnestly 10 years ago.
okay, so 10 years ago, you really want to see Robert come to know the Lord and walk with him. And,
Yeah.
And for a time, he was attending church with you, but not a believer. Right?
I went a few times with her to church when she was going to her other church, but that was just whatever, just tagging along. But I was going to East Valley with her.
Yeah, for a while, right?
So she was listening to Sandals Church online for a while, and then she wanted to go to church. So she doesn't drive, so I took her to church, and I would just go with her just because I knew that she wanted to go, and I should probably do that. So I'd go with her, and I was just kind of tagging along again. And we met.
Then we met. So the story behind that
good.
is fascinating because John and I, this is during COVID, and we couldn't meet in the church, so they came up with an alternate plan, and they were going to combine the East Valley campus and the Banning campus, so Mentone and Banning. We're going to converge at the Yucaipa Performing Arts Center because they have an outdoor venue. Big outdoor venue.
Yeah, super big.
So for several months, we assembled and set up. I mean, a lot of work. It was a full day deal just to get set up. Sound equipment, bucket trucks, all that kind of stuff. But the
striping.
So John and I met the very first day before the event, and we took chalk out on the dirt parking lot next to the YPAC, the Yucaipa Performing Arts Center, and we were striping that parking lot, and we see this guy across the field. Come to find out, this is Robert, right? And
being nosy.
I love this
and
story.
he was just checking things out, and it's trying to figure out what we were doing. He's like, "Hey, are you guys from Santos Church?" And we're like, "Yeah." So I walked over and started into a conversation, and come to find out, he's not a believer. He does know about Santos Church because he had attended the East Valley campus, and so we kind of have a conversation about just the Lord, and then he says, "Do you think Santos would allow me to volunteer at the Yucaipa Performing Arts Center if they knew that I wasn't a believer?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." So
Definitely.
What happened is he held a sign when we started that event. Each week, faithfully showed up early, held a sign, and the sign was like, do you remember what the sign exactly said?
One of the signs, there was a bunch of signs, but one of the signs said, "There's a smile behind this mask."
Yeah, so we all had to wear masks, and so there's a smile behind this mask. And it was just a fun way of like welcoming people and making them feel invited and loved on.
You had your red shirt too, right? Like so, it was like get surfing. Yeah, as a greeter.
Yeah.
But he's not a believer, and we knew it. And so we developed this relationship with Robert, and then Robert, you had a business. You still have the same business, but you were leasing out a frontage space off of California Street.
Yeah, it was a stone throw away from YPAC. Literally like half a block away.
Yep. And you are an artisan jeweler.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had been getting the idea about highlighting local businesses in the Yucaipa area as part of just like, hey, promoting them, loving on them, and using our social media channels to do that. And so we asked you if we could come check out like your business. And we've never seen like artisan jewelry being done. And
It's fascinating.
yep. And we flew a drone through his front door of his building and into the back space. It was very technically difficult.
It was hard.
That was all John.
And what's funny is John did that. Now John trained me to fly the drone.
Now he flies drones all the time.
That was my first job with you guys, was to learn how to fly the drone, and then it came into the video and then the editing.
Yeah,
and the podcast.
You filmed our baptisms and edited that and all this. So we fly this drone into his business, and then we do this filming of your business and you doing your artisan jewelry work, showing us like how it's done, and it was fascinating. It was honestly this shop that he had. Oh my gosh, it was so cool. All the instruments and tools, and the welding tools, and that just watching him work his skills on metal and stone was really cool, and we put that together. You can still access it on our YouTube channel to kind of see that interview.
You can access that interview from what would be maybe 2+ years ago, whatever. And then we had already done one conversation with Robert from before. We do go into it even further, a lot more of this story as well. So
what's funny about it is so I was thinking, as you guys are both talking, I'm thinking, well, when I started serving at YPAC, Jess wasn't serving. She was the Christian I wasn't. I was serving, and then she slowly started serving. I gave her a sign. I'm like, "Come on, just get her a red shirt, get her to serve." And then now she's on. Now that I'm serving here, we're getting her to serve more with the church. It's like, come on, I'm doing stuff. You do stuff now too.
It's good. It's awesome, man. Honestly, the fact, just how we met. I mean, obviously, you'll continue to elaborate right now on that story, but just how we met and the relationships that we built that weren't based around, hey, you need to believe in Jesus. You need to believe in Jesus. You need to believe. We built a friendship. First.
Yeah, that was first,
and it meant a lot to you.
That's what made it. I mean, that's what brought me. That's what really brought me into the fold. I mean, without you two guys accepting me for who I am and what I bring to the table and what my beliefs were or weren't, you guys just. I mean, that's what, to me, made the door seem like I can walk through it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Before, if I was being judged or if, it didn't feel like in the past like it was a welcoming thing. Mm-hmm. But you guys built a friendship with me first. Yeah. And you guys were willing to, work with me regardless of what my beliefs were,
Yeah.
And I mean, you got saved.
Yeah.
You came to church here.
At some
you
point,
showed up.
you gave me a call, right? It was like a text or something. And then you were like, I'll be there on Sunday. And I was like, awesome.
Yep. And you were going through some stuff.
Yeah.
And God brought you to a place where your heart was ready to like, okay, I need to hand this life over. I just need to do it. And you did here.
Yeah.
And we celebrated. Like, it was like the greatest. Oh my gosh. We've already been praying for that. For a long time. We used to tell you that. It's only a matter of time, Robert. It's just a matter of time.
You told me straight out at my studio.
Dude, we were like, one of these days, man.
We got you.
We get you.
We got you.
But like it was funny, right, back then, because they're just like, come on. They were like, we're not pushing on you. We're like, one day, dude, it's all good. But when that happened, like I remember everyone's walking out of the room, and you were just in your seat, and you were just waiting for chilling. And I was like, oh, okay, here we go. And I could see it in your eyes, man. It was so cool. And it got me crying. And then I was like, after
we were all crying.
After
man.
it happened, I literally was running around trying to find you. Like literally, I was like, PB, I got to tell you something amazing just happened. Amazing. And he was like, what's going on? I was like, right. Robert just gave his life to Jesus right now. Yeah. And he's like, what? And then he found you, and then he started talking to you for the next couple hours because it was such a special. Yeah. It was special.
That was a special day.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
I have fond memories of that. So I want to hear.
Yeah.
From your perspective, Jessica, like, okay, he's still broken, just like all the rest of us, but there's obviously some changes. So tell us, like, okay, you noticed some stuff. There was some pretty dramatic things that happened as a result of him making a confession.
Yeah, he's just a completely different person. Like on top of finally giving up the struggle, the wrestling, and finally giving up to Christ, he had to do all kinds of other things to better himself and to just become a different person. And I think all of them together made him just more of a quiet soul versus this chaotic tornado of he's got a lot going on in his brain. He's very smart. He's very creative, problem solving. Like he's constantly just thinking about
ADD.
Everything
Gotta be ADD.
in the world. So now it's more like he's just able to recognize when he's acting that way and just be more calm.
Yeah. And I've logged some time now, Robert. You remember we went up to the mountains. You remember when that big, huge snowstorm, accumulation of snow, and we went up there just to assist and just like your heart to use your energy, talents, gifts to be a blessing to others and to glorify God. You're doing that now. Like this video that people will watch will be edited partly by your OCD.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Come on, man. Use those gifts, and you're doing it.
Just your attention to detail.
Yes.
That's what makes you good at things like artisan jewelry, right? Because most of us, we wouldn't be able to hang on to the smallest of detail for that long, but you're able to perseverance,
like
on
hone in,
right? Mm-hmm. It's perseverating, like persevering on a particular thing, and so now God's using that, and it's been a blessing to our campus and to us, and so
I think one of my favorite things that I've experienced so far, aside from you just really just going through this process of refinement, sanctification, like you're really I love that you're still the person, like you're still you. There's just something vibrant and new. But I do love, like, we've had conversations where it's like, Pastor Brian knows, like, you'll have a question and like, I don't know about this thing or that thing. And we have a real conversation about it. And it's like, not like trying to convince you, but it's just giving you perspective or an idea. And then you go and you kind of process through things. And I always want you to know, like, everybody's kind of walking through this in a different way. We're all unique, and say, I'm just thinking through this thing, and I don't want to seem like I'm complaining or I don't like this, and I'm like, dude, please bring it on. These are the conversations where we really worked through things and stuff. So it's been really refreshing to have someone that's not just like, all right, I'm a believer now, cool, I'm just gonna go over here, read my Bible. They want to like work through stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And like ask questions and like learn and grow and learn how to do not just study the word, but also learn how to operate and function as a believer with maybe some of the nuances that you maybe don't like about yourself and struggles. And you're really like working on yourself a lot. And so like Jess was saying, like it's evident that you've worked through a lot.
It's been a strange road. Luckily, we're doing it together now. Like me and Jess, we do several groups together, small groups, and we just finished up Faith and Science group at the main campus, and we're doing another group in San Bernardino campus. Wow! But we're learning a lot together. The questions that I ask are at this point, like I am vulnerable. I am just asking the questions that have been in my head for so long, and I'm afraid sometimes to ask these questions, but I have to ask these questions.
Yeah.
I feel uncomfortable at times. Like I don't trust my thinking or how I come at things. I feel like I'm just awkward. I'm just very awkward. But I always go back to what something Pastor Matt said one time in one of the sermons, and I don't remember the full length of the discussion, but he said something about deconstruction. Mm-hmm. I'm deconstructing myself, and I'm reconstructing myself in the way that God,
that was a debrief.
It was a debrief.
Mm-hmm.
That the way God planned for me, and it's difficult because I have to deconstruct myself and look at myself in a way that I've never looked at myself before. Yeah. And I'm just glad that you guys are here with me because I can ask you guys the tough questions, and I know like the time that we spend together is not just. I mean, I know you don't always have time like after church, whatever, because there's a lot of people here. But like this amount of time we have, we always talk after. We talk before. Just these little bit of time that we have, and I can just ask you guys those tough questions, and it's been fantastic. I mean, the way that this process has gone down, and that I can do it with my wife, and that she's willing to do something because like her doing this like right now and doing some of the other things, it's uncomfortable for her. She's not that kind of a person, but me pushing her and her pushing me to do the things that I do, we're a team in this, and it's starting to work out, and it's starting to show.
Absolutely. And it's the fruit so cool. of what God's doing in your guys' life and your marriage. Now we're going to turn our attention to you because I want to hear about you're a nurse.
Yes.
So you have been a nurse for how many years?
21.
21 years at Redlands Community Hospital.
Correct.
And you started in what department?
The newborn nursery.
Okay, so you're little babies.
Yes. Healthy ones, not the NICU.
Okay, so healthy babies, but with their moms, and they're just starting life off. So that's kind of where your entrance into nursing was. And so where have you gone in your career with that?
Well, after I graduated, I worked for about a year in Orange County, and then we bought a home out here, and I commuted, and that was absolutely miserable. So
that would have been a long ways.
Thank the Lord, I found a job at Redlands Community Hospital, and I was hired immediately and started the newborn nursery night shift. Then I was quickly voluntold that I would be a charge nurse on nights, and then we transferred to like taking care of the mom and the baby at the same time in the same room. So that's called couplet care, and so I was in a couplet care nurse, and then once my legs started getting a little iffy, my balance and walking, we had just built a brand new big building, and from there, my manager and my director, they were like, I don't know if Jessica's going to be able to walk this building, so we need to find something else for her to do. We don't want to lose her. So they were able to create a position for me that was, in an office during the day, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, doing quality improvement. So basically chart audits, all kinds of just different regulatory audits, sending them off to the government and whoever wants to know the information.
There's a lot of forms in hospital administration, yeah.
So that was for the couplet care department, for the NICU, and also for labor and delivery.
Wow.
So that's where I've been for the last 16 years.
Let's talk your diagnosis with multiple sclerosis. That happened at what age?
About 24.
So 24 years of age, what were the symptoms? Like how did that come about that you found out that you had MS?
Luckily for me, it was a relatively quick process. Some people, they have symptoms, but nobody's able to really pinpoint what's happening. But mine, the first symptoms were just kind of numbness and tingling in my back, and it felt like I was wearing a tight girdle. And then within a weekend, I felt like someone was sitting on my chest, like it was difficult to breathe. And then my hands weren't working. Like I couldn't hold a pencil. I couldn't, like when I tried to wash my hair, it felt like I was using my fists.
Wow.
So after a couple of doctor's appointments and, just first kind of blow it off. It's nothing. You're fine. I saw a nurse practitioner and she did a full neurological exam and she immediately recognized there was something drastically wrong, especially for my age. And she got me an appointment with a neurologist that day. And within a week, I had a spinal tap, I had an MRI, and I was diagnosed.
Wow. And that's a lot to take in at that age. You're a young woman.
Luckily, I was in nursing school, so all of my friends were just all sitting around looking at our books, trying to figure out.
Being nurses.
Yeah. What's wrong with you?
So, in a brief summary, like, what is MS?
It's so your nerves connect, and where they connect, it's called a synapse, and then they're coated. It's like an electrical wire. Mm-hmm. So the plastic around the wire. So what happens is your body basically attacks that myelin sheath, which is, that plastic lining around the wire, and it eats it up. And then sometimes it'll eat right through the nerve. So the signals that my brain are saying, hey, foot, move forward, lift your toes, do this, they don't work.
Wow.
There's no connection anymore.
Autoimmune disease. So your own immune system is attacking your body. Your brain, your nerves, your spinal cord.
Yeah. It's crazy. My dad had Guillain-Barré, which is you'll see it like if you get a shot, like vaccine shot, it'll say like one of the potential side effects is Guillain-Barré, but is the whole thing the myelin sheath being eaten, and he had to take like an immunoglobulin thing that that tried to counter it, but it was scary. Yeah. So this is just a specific form of that. And then like, how did it progress for you? Like now you are in a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. So how did the progression happen from you feeling tightness and like how quickly did that happen?
Well, you were in nursing school, right? You said when you were diagnosed?
When I was diagnosed. So when the diagnosis came, it was mainly my upper body, and it was really my hands. Like it was just very, my arms, my motor function, I couldn't write. I was telling Brian earlier that the way that I was able to pass third semester, I believe, and to move on to my fourth semester was I couldn't even hold a pencil to fill out the Scantron. So me and my teacher had to sit in the back corner, and I'd read the questions and tell her what I want the answer to be, and she filled it out for me.
Wow. Oh, wow. Okay.
So then I passed, and I was able, that summer after that test was when, all the major work, and I started getting on the medications and things like that. And by the time fourth semester started, I was perfectly normal.
Wow. Yes. So what she had originally is relapsing, remitting MS. So that means it comes and goes. So she could have symptoms, she could not have symptoms. They would move from one part of her body to the other part of the body.
Wow.
So she had relapsing, remitting for years and years and years, up until, like 8 years ago they diagnosed you with?
So that's when when you were saying they had to make another, the extra roll, kind of shift a roll?
So that happened about in 2007, I think.
Okay.
So from 2000 is when I was diagnosed to 2007, it was this relapsing, remitting. It wasn't always bad.
It's kind of phantom.
Bad a little bit sometimes, and then and then I'd be perfectly normal. And then at the time that my legs started getting involved, that's when this new position was made, and I'm trying to think. It just has really basically thinking back, it's from that time on, it's just kind of never gone away. So it's always probably been in a secondary progressive, which is what they call it, when you're not having any remissions. You're not going back to pre.
Yeah.
So I was actually diagnosed and taken off all the medications, because all the medications at the time that were FDA approved were for relapsing remitting only. So a doctor at Loma Linda finally said, you know what? He's like, from what you're telling me, I don't think you have relapsing remitting anymore. It's secondary progressive, and let's get you off all this medicine, and it's not doing anything for you. So that was maybe, what year is it?
Like it was like 8 or
10 years ago?
8 to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So tell me, like, for you, and Robert, you can speak into this too. Like, this is a big change, right? This is like, okay, wait, we weren't planning on this.
Well, it was a big change, but it seemed like it was really gradual.
Yeah.
So
how were you digesting this emotionally, mentally, spiritually? Did you wrestle through it with God? Were you like, why this? Why now?
no, I don't know why. So like somebody asked me that recently, and I'm like, I don't think I was ever like mad at God or asked God. Maybe I was, back when I was 24. It's hard to remember that far back.
Right.
I remember being really scared. I remember reading, obviously, all the nursing books about what could possibly happen. And the first thing that stood out to me was dementia. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? When I'm 24 years old, I have to think about having dementia. So that was really scary, but I don't ever remember.
It's probably good that the internet wasn't like a big thing back then, right?
Well,
You'd have been Googling everything.
Oh my goodness.
I don't remember being mad at God about it at all.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because I had a relationship with God anyway. It was more like, okay,
That you're
now
trusting. You're going to trust him anyway.
Yeah.
So, Robert, what was it like for you?
I was scared. I'm not as educated as her, so like I wasn't reading all the books. I would read certain things, and I would latch on to certain things. A lot of things were like blindness, bedridden, wheelchair. It was just like, wow, this is. But at the same time,
And the wheelchair never even came into play until probably 2008.
yeah, I mean, it was very gradual. It was like cane and things like that. But she's so strong that she didn't ever seem like it affected her mentally. She was never afraid. It didn't feel like she wasn't like angry. She wasn't, she wasn't antisocial. She just dealt with it.
Like it didn't consume her.
She's strong. Yeah, it didn't consume her. She just kept working. She kept going to school. She just did all the things that she had to do. And we travel a lot. And
I think my worst problem was vanity.
Mm.
Who uses a cane when they're 30 years old?
Yeah.
That is really not what I want to do.
Yeah.
This is really embarrassing. And so he's made me several beautiful canes, and I'm like, look what I got,
Add a little silver to them.
There you go.
A little bling bling.
Yep.
So that was probably the hardest part, really. Like, honestly, like being 30 years old and walking around with a cane. That was like something like, and that's, that's all just my vanity. But
people would ask her, like in stores, "Oh, honey, what happened to you?" And me being the jokester, I'd be like, "Oh, you didn't read that news story?" They're like, "What?" And I go, "The lion that escaped from the zoo, it attacked her." And they're always like, "Really?" And I'm like, "No, just breaking the ice."
You had to put up with this guy for all these years.
yeah.
Well, I want to ask, is there anything that, like, there's a ton of stuff that I could go into, but as we kind of wrap things up, any last minute thoughts, comments that you thought would be worthwhile to share?
Speaking of, marrying someone that was not a believer, living all those years, my heart, I feel like you two were an answer to my prayers, partially. And it was me, I think, finally not trying to force Christianity down Robert's throat.
Yeah.
It was more like all right, this is your problem, God. I have to get out of the way. I have to give up and be happy with whatever the outcome is.
Yeah.
This is my heart. This is what I really want, but it's, your will. And he answered.
Yeah.
He as soon I feel like it was probably within a year that I truly was able to pray that prayer in my head and just give up. My part of it, that God was able to be like, all right, she's out of the way.
And what's funny is when you gave up, it seems like when I gave up, I gave up. I gave up my will. I gave up me trying to control things and me trying to figure out things, right? Me try to understand things and me try. What I really gave up was me being God.
Yeah.
You know, I was God. I was my God for so long, and it just wasn't working. You know, it wasn't working, and finally I realized it wasn't working, and I gave up.
Yeah.
Just like you gave up, and then I guess when you give up your will, God's like, all right,
Yeah.
I'll take over now.
Absolutely. That's what he's looking for in all of us is to yield. So
Yeah, and I mean, there is a lot more to the story, right?
Oh, yeah.
But we, like I said before earlier in the episode, we did do a conversation with just Robert before.
check that out.
If you were to look at before it was rebranded, Crossing Paths, it was called A Conversation About. And if you go back to our videos, there's a conversation with Robert, and he goes deeper into some of the struggles and the reasons why, like, he kind of hit a point.
Yeah.
Like where
that was
it's like
really good conversation.
very good.
And you can also go all the way back to the the
some of our first videos we ever posted.
Yeah, the first videos we ever posted was in his shop, and he's describing, you know, his work, his skills, the artisan jewelry that he does. It's really kind of a cool little synopsis of that. So
Very, yeah.
Well, as we do each time at the end, we get a chance to just pray for you guys. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Lord, I just thank you for Robert and Jessica, just such a gift to us as friends, and Lord, as co-laborers in ministry, and then also, Lord, just fellow believers, my brother and sister in Christ. And so we just rejoice in the work that you have done, are doing, and will continue to do in and through them. And we celebrate Robert's confession of faith, Lord, that he's a believer, he's walking in truth, and just the joy that brings Jessica and all of us. And we thank you that we just got to play a little role in the work that you've been doing in his heart all along. And we're excited, Lord, for the future. So we commit this conversation to you as well, even the editing that Robert does, and
I'm going to help.
and that Jessica will help out with. And I pray that it would be a blessing to those who are hearers, and that some person that needs to hear whatever part of the conversation will draw them closer to you or help them walk through hard places. I just pray that it would be a gift to them. And so we commit that to you, and we thank you in advance of that work. And I pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. You guys
Thank
do
you,
good.
guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate
thanks
you.
for coming in.
Cut.
You got to do that. I'll keep that in there.
Cut.